Let's have a little touch on the title race and just remind you of how things are looking at the top of the Premier League at the moment, because it does make somewhat fascinating reading in terms of just the closeness of things between those top five sides, at least. Just 4 points between Arsenal, who are top, and Tottenham down in fifth. We're 13 games in, Paul. I mean, it's easy to draw big conclusions from things like this, but when you look at the situation at the top of the Premier League at the moment, is the title race perhaps as open as it looks?
It could be in the next week. It could be in the next week. I say that Aston Villa have been phenomenal at home. They've got Man City and Arsenal, 2 games at home. I mean, if they went and won both of them, you'd literally, seriously, 15 games go, you'd like to think they could be in the top 4 race. I just think the top 3, I think Arsenal, top of the league, haven't even got started yet. Not even started. Nowhere near where they got to last season. They're top of the league with a couple of decent games coming up. I think Wolves is a difficult game today. I'm a big fan of Wolves. I think that's a decent, hard game. Follow it up with Luton. If they win them back-to-back, I mean, it's a big week, this Premier League week, when you're playing 3 games in a week. Yeah,
it certainly is. Clinton, the top 7 only separated at the moment by 7 points. You compare it to this time last year, and the gap between first and 7th was 13 points. So it's a lot more congested this time round. Why, at the moment, 13 games in, is it proving a little less predictable?
Yeah, that is the million-dollar question. It's a difficult one, really. I look at Man City and I think they played a lot of football last season. They're not clicking, but one thing with Man City, even though they're not clicking, they're still in and amongst it. Come January and February, they're the sort of team that can go on an unbeaten record and be fantastic. You look at it with Arsenal there, look at the form guide, and you even look at Man United. They're probably the informed team in the Premier League at the moment, but Aston Villa, they've been outstanding. I was at the game against Tottenham the other day. And then everyone laughed at people when they said Aston Villa might have a chance of finishing in that top 4. It's still wide open at the moment. But for me, I think that it's a 3-horse race. I think it's between Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool who win the Premier League. But I'm still going to put my neck out there and say Man City, I think, are strong enough, because they're the just sort of team, when they get Kevin De Bruyne back, they could just go on an amazing run.
I think it's a bit tighter down there. Sorry, Si.
That's all right.
Because the bottom teams are a lot less strong. You know what I mean? So I think teams are winning. It's very, you know, you go and get beat by someone, and no disrespect, but you play at Burnley, Sheffield United, at Luton at home, you beat them and you're back on a little run again. And I think that's why it's not that. And a lot of the teams have played each other. Yeah. You know, Liverpool played team, Man City, they played each other. So for me, I think that's why. But yeah, I mean, if Villa, you know, with a home record like that, I don't care what league, I don't care if you're playing Sunday morning football, to win that many games on the trot is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, just picking up. Go on, Chris.
Aston Villa as well, though. Even there's worst Aston Villa teams are unbelievable at home. This is a good Aston Villa team. It's a difficult place to go at the best of times. Yeah. They can win games of football. They've proven it. And for me, I know Unai Emery, he started well at Arsenal, it didn't really, but he is a top-class manager. There's no getting away from it.
What did you make of Tony Adams, the former Arsenal captain's comments this week? Because he said, had Emery stayed at Arsenal, they'd have won the title last season.
Oh, wow.
Listen, it's easy to say that, isn't it, in hindsight? I think what I will say is there is no doubt that Unai Emery is a top manager. You look at his record and what he's won in the continent, what he's delivered with teams that you wouldn't expect. Yes, the Seville team was good. He's done it with Villarreal as well. He's came in, he's totally transformed this Aston Villa team. They're a proper team, Aston Villa. You know, you look at the high line they play, but they're organised. You know, you can tell they obviously work really hard in training during the week. Again, people will criticise, you know, maybe when you're playing midweek in Europe, then you've got to go again at the weekend. I think it's helped this Aston Villa team gel and, you know, get together a lot better than, you know, a lot quicker than what they'd expected. And when you've got a man scoring goals like that, I mean, that's an unbelievable finish. Just touch and hit as quickly as possible. Aston Villa are having a chance at top 4, 100%.
And so in terms of maintaining that across the whole season, with 13 games in, there is a long, long way to go. We're heading into this busy period now across the festive season. What might count against Villa maintaining this kind of momentum?
I suppose it's just keeping players fit. I think we know that Emery likes to keep a settled side, but he's quite happy to tweak things if he needs to. The last game against Spurs, he did that in the second half. You know, things weren't quite going the way that he wanted them to go. He brought on Bailey and Tielemans, and both of those two made a real impact. And I totally agree with the guys. I just think he's a top quality manager. He gets the best out of the players. You can see that every player knows exactly what's expected of them. You're seeing the improvements week on week. So the home form is absolutely brilliant. They obviously got the win away from home, but they've got injuries to key players already. You know, they've lost players at the start of the season, but he just seems to find a way of the players that come in. They perform, and they perform at a real high level. So, yeah, I think Aston Villa are absolutely brilliant.
That's down to proper coaching, though.
It is.
You know, when players go out injured and, you know, they're replaced by other ones, they know exactly their job.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing as soon as they come in. And there's no doubt about it. He has taken, you know, players who are maybe struggling for confidence. He's taken their game to a new level. And as I said, I'll say it again, Aston Villa are in with a chance of that top four, 100%.
It's going to be fascinating to see if they can maintain it. Dawes, coming back to the champions, Manchester City. They've got that big game against Tottenham tomorrow, live on Super Sunday. I mean, Clinton's absolutely right. We see it historically, season in, season out. When it comes to the second half of the season, the run-in, they begin to click through the gears, as we saw last season, then pull away and overtake Arsenal. Are we seeing, though, vulnerabilities from this City side this season that perhaps we haven't seen in previous ones, or is that unfair?
I think it's probably a little bit unfair. And I know Clint said there that they aren't clicked. I'd agree with that. But we don't see Manchester City click till after Christmas. That's what the way you look at Arsenal. But I think that's credit to Arsenal as well. We aren't seeing them click. The only team that I would say where you look and go, they're the team, is who they drew with last week, and that's Liverpool. And look, there wasn't a lot in the game, in my opinion. I don't think it was a classic. We were all excited about watching it. Man City dominated the start of it. You're thinking, here we go, when they got the goal. But Liverpool showed something, and I think that's what Liverpool are in. They're the team for me that you look and go, there's a surprise package for me this year, really. I thought they would improve on what they did last year, but the form they're in at the moment is up there, and I believe they're in it, like Clint said. There's three teams in it for me. I still go Manchester City, but this is a Liverpool team that can beat anyone on the day. They really, really can.
Who runs them closest then for you? If it's going to be them again.
Now, after 13 games, I'm probably going to go Arsenal still. I've been so impressed with Arsenal, and what they did last year, they're going to build on that experience, in my opinion. The hardest thing, you look at Liverpool a few years ago, is winning the league for the first time in a long, long time. It's winning that first title. Manchester City have done that for many, many years. Have kept doing it, and so there's no pressure on them. The pressure comes to the back end of the season when you nearly got your hands on that trophy. How do you deal with it? Can you get over the line? Arsenal couldn't deal with that last year, and not just because of that. The loss of Saliba was a major impact in them not winning the league, in my opinion. But I think that experience can make them run Man City close.
4 weeks ago, Spurs, it was the challengers.
Yeah, we won't go into it. We won't go into them injuries yet. But
Give me time. We've got time to talk Spurs a little bit later. Stirring the pot already. But just coming back to Arsenal, we've seen two sides to them in the last week. We saw the side that eventually ground out a win away to Brentford, and then we see the side that absolutely exploded against Lens in the Champions League this week. Is that signs of a side that's continuing to develop under Arteta in a positive direction?
Yeah, 100%. I thought it was a big goal last week, Arteta's goal at the far post against Brentford. I thought it was a big goal.
Is that last season the kind of game they come away with maybe a point or worse?
Not really, because they were dominant last season, winning games quite easily last year. They didn't really have this, but this is unbelievable play by Havertz. I'm a big fan, I've said about Havertz. This is movement at its best. I mean, Clinton and Boydie will tell you. I think he should play up front. That was centre-forward movement, in my opinion. He goes and then he drifts behind, good defenders, and it's a great header. He'll pay back, he will. He'll come. I thought he was the best player on the pitch against Lens midweek as well. Confidence. Every player will tell you here, everybody, if you could bottle one thing up, you bottle confidence.
He's proving one or two people wrong, Clinton, isn't he, Havertz?
Yeah, recently, listen, at the start of the season...
Are you still not convinced?
No, I'm still not convinced, but I'd have to agree. I think his best position as a false number 9 is playing up there. I don't think he can go and play in that Odegaard role. I don't think he's there. I think he's a good footballer, but I don't think he can play like Odegaard, pick the passes. But I think his movement there, it is fantastic, and as said, me and Buddy probably know about it being centre forward. He just goes and then he spins in behind. It's a great ball from Saka, and he gets that goal. And one thing I tell you, Sai, football is about confidence. It is confidence. As a centre forward, if you're scoring goals, you'll keep getting in there and you'll keep believing that you're going to score goals. But for me, I think his best position is a number 9. But the problem is he has Jesus ahead of him at the moment. But you can rotate these, and I think it's a big goal for him for his confidence moving forward.
How do they avoid, Chris, succumbing to the pressure like they did last season? Do you think they can? Are they mentally stronger, do you think, this season?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I said that last season in terms of, that the confidence that they've taken from last year, been able to build on that. Are they stronger this year? I think they are. They've more competition for places. I think it's key. People speak about Saka and his, the impact he has in the team. But, Gabriel Jesus, I think they're a far better team when he's in it. And also along Martinelli. I think the pace that he's got, I mean, I know Trossard's come in and Trossard has done well, Havertz has done well, but, you know, Martinelli for me has just got that X factor. He does something different. He's similar to Saka on the other side. He scores goals, he assists. Gabriel Jesus, he's got to be fit. But I can only see Arsenal improving at this moment. I mean, they're top of the league and they've not been unbelievable. You know, Odegaard, I don't think it's been his best miss. I think he's been off it for a few weeks, but you know,
and
if he comes
none
back,
of you there have touched on Declan Rice.
Yeah.
I think he's a must.
He's, I mean, not just for Arsenal, for England. He's sensational. He gets in any team in the Premier League. He has been absolutely brilliant, and he could be the difference.
Apart from Man City, because they've got.
Yeah, but Rodri. Well, we've seen when Rodri wasn't there, no one can replace him. Declan Rice could, in my opinion. I think he's that good and could be the difference.
Well,
Can I just say, Dawes, I love the fact you put your hand up.
Sorry, man, I didn't want to interrupt. You're not in class.
I was waving it with my pen.
Hey.
I was waving for my train last night to pick me up as well. I only just made it.
It didn't arrive, did it?
No, it didn't arrive. I'm still waving it.
But we're not doing travel chat. You'll be pleased with it. So I want to touch on the keepers because Ramsdale plays against Brentford. It's rare back in goal for the game against Lens midweek in the Champions League. In terms of Arsenal progressing this season, in terms of maintaining a title challenge, perhaps going one better than last year, he's got to sort this situation out. He's got to decide on his number one because Ramsdale against Brentford looked like a broken man at times.
Yeah, I think he knows who his number one is, and that's David Raya. I feel for Ramsdale because I think what he did last season, I think he was part of that side that obviously ended up finishing second. But, you know, he was a big part, a big character. And you could just see, we were actually watching the start of this game and we were sort of saying you could see the nerves in that first half. I think the positive is the way that he came out in the second half and performed well in that second half. But it must be so difficult. You're number one goalkeeper. Then you hear Arteta speak about the situation and say, well, I'm going to change the goalkeepers, whether it's game on game when David Raya came in. It could be even within a game. That clearly wasn't the case. It was clear that David Raya was going to come in and be that number one goalkeeper. So he had to just remain positive. He had to remain professional, which he has done, and come in and try and perform the best way. But I think when we were trying to say, well, what's the difference between David Raya and Ramsdale? And we said, well, is it, you know, the way that he plays with the ball at his feet? And if it is, you could see that he was just a bit unsure, wasn't he? You know, when the ball comes back to him early on in the game, he takes that extra touch. And is that because he's trying to prove himself? It's such a hard situation to be in as a
It'd be interesting to see what the players think. Because this was a tight-knit team last season.
Merce, I think you can see what the players think at the end of the game when they all go over to him.
You could see the way they went over to him.
Has Arteta created a problem here that he didn't need? In the way that he's managed this, because we've got a keeper now who was the number one, clearly isn't anymore, and confidence-wise looks shot.
Yeah, 100%. And the other goalkeeper's not majorly full of confidence. It's not like he's come in and he looks a bit
So why has
shaky.
he created a problem he didn't need to have?
I don't know. He'll have a reason. We go by stats. I mean, the goalkeeping coach at Brentford at Arsenal was the coach at Brentford, goalkeeping coach. So he would know Raya. So I don't know if he's.
I think if you're going to employ a goalkeeping coach, you've got to trust their judgment as well.
Oh, and his stats are good. At Brentford, they were good. They were good.
There's similarities. You know, if you look at Arteta and Pep Guardiola when they first arrived at Manchester City, they were tinkering to try and find a goalkeeper.
Well, he said Joe Hart.
There's similarities, and then they brought in what do you call him from Barcelona as well. It didn't quite work in Manchester City, and then then eventually got the number one. You can feel as will Arteta be? I know they're going to spend a lot of money in Raya, but I wouldn't be surprised if a year, 2 years down the line, if he's still there, that he goes and looks to improve that position again. I think David Raya is a top-class goalkeeper, but once they move, it looks as if Ramsdale's going to be moved on for me anyway, because you can't have, he played for England not that long ago, he's in the England squads, you can't be sitting on a bench. If you're in England internationally, you can't be sitting on a bench. And there is no doubt David Raya is Arsenal's number one at this moment in time. But, for Mikel Arteta, it looks as if he's searching for someone to grab that number one position.
He's obviously looked at last season, hasn't he, and gone, OK, we finished second, how do we then...
Improve?
Yeah, improve, and that is obviously a way that he feels that it could have improved. It just hasn't worked out that way so far.